Welcome to Building Foundations for Education. The school year is coming to an end, and I'm excited to tell you about our projects of high impact. With me are many special guests to share about the wonderful work that they've done this year in their schools. Welcome, Ann Bieber. We're glad you're here, from Principal of Storm Grove Middle School.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And very excited that our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Mark Rendell, is here with us as well. So
Thank you,
welcome
Cynthia.
to you both. So we're here to talk about high impact grants, and I want to thank Dr. Rendell for his vision of really helping the Ed Foundation bring this to fruition. And we identified we didn't want principals to be great grant writers. We wanted to give them a platform of being able to implement innovative strategies and grants that would advance academic gains and maybe enhance instructional practices. So do you want to share a little bit about your perspective?
Absolutely, yeah. So every once in a while, a team of teachers will approach a principal, or a principal and their leadership team will come up with an idea, something that they want to implement, and it might be something that requires funding, and it might be after they've already allocated all of their funds for the year. You know, the budget process begins actually before the summer and is finalized over the summer. So when you open the new year, you've pretty much allocated where all the spending is going to go. So every once in a while, you come up with a bright idea and say, man, we'd really like to try this new thing. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, the team of teachers might come to the principal and say, hey, we want to do something different. We should do this way. Now we want to try and do something different. And if the principal doesn't have funds, and it's something that needs funds, it's great that there now is an opportunity for them to apply for a grant through the Education Foundation that maybe could fund that innovative idea or that change in practice, you know, to see if it's going to work.
Right.
So, you know, try the lab in the school, so to speak. And fortunately for us, for our schools, for our students and teachers, the Education Foundation is there to support some of these bright ideas and let us do some crazy things.
Well, and I think as you shared in the past, it's been a great partnership because the district's able to try things that you might not try with federal or traditional dollars. So it's kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. And then hopefully in time it becomes an established initiative of the school district. I think you joked at one meeting and said, then we don't really need you because it takes off on its own. Right.
It's part of one of those aspects of the grant process is usually grants are written to try something new, to see if it's going to, you know, pass muster, so to speak, and bring its desired effect. And so these impact grants allow us to do that. And again, if it proves to be worthwhile, it's something that we could scale, you know, across other schools or something like that, then we probably would take over and try to build it into our budget and that kind of thing. Yeah. So, but none of that gets started without, you know, the seed money, so to speak, from these grants.
Right. And so really what launched this was you helped us identify through our collaborative process what are those high areas that needed the most attention between literacy, secondary, math and science, and also the social emotional component. So we rolled out the opportunity for school teams to submit letters of idea. And you tell us about how you identified what the need was and how you and your team came together with your innovative concept.
So I was really excited when we heard about this opportunity at a principals meeting because we had been looking at this and exactly as Dr. Rendell shared, you look at these ideas after your money's been allocated or after you're already sort of in process. And the language arts, the ELA team, and I had met and we were talking about, you know, students that are struggling with literacy. Mm-hmm. They get frustrated. They're constantly out of their seat. They have to go to the bathroom. They have to sharpen their pencil 3-4 times. And we started looking at flexible seating. And we researched a lot about flexible seating even before we heard about the grant opportunity. And as you shared, we're really not professional grant writers. So we did our research. We came up with this idea. What if we implemented this and tried some flexible seating in a classroom? How would that look? What would it have an impact on? So that's really where it started.
Well, and I think one of the things I forgot to mention to our audience is after the letter of idea was submitted, our panel reviewed it, and then we invited the selected proposals to come present. And I think that's where we really felt like the passion we could see in your eyes and your team. We got a sense for how connected and committed, and that really made a huge difference. So flexible seating. Yes. I know I have to tell you, I was at a seminar and we were lined up in rows for 2 hours, and I thought of what that would be like for students. So tell how you decided on what flexible seating looks like.
So we've really looked at it, and the students, they're sitting in a desk. Typically, it's a desk that's attached to the chair. for 7 hours a day. And we thought, well, what could this look like if they had an opportunity to sit in a more comfortable seat or a seat of their choosing? One of the major things in one of the research articles that we found was a teacher who had just very simply tied an arm exercise band around the front of a student's chair who had ADHD. And the teacher said it made such an incredible difference because the student was just able to bounce their foot on the flex band, and that was how they started looking into flexible seating. So we really looked at a bunch of different options and what would those options look like. And we wanted to make sure we kept some of the traditional seating in the classroom. And then we really talked it through that it would never be used as a punishment where if you were misbehaving, you were sent to a traditional seat, because we didn't want the students to view that in their other classes throughout the day as being a punishment. So we mapped it out where we had 4 different types of seating and 4 of each of those types of seating, along with the tables and chairs and desks and chairs.
And I think one of the things that we loved, and we had talked about this with Dr. Rendell, is that it's really a comparative study. So it's comparing the students that had the opportunity to those who did not. So I know you had some initial data on that.
We did. We looked at how would we implement this, and we decided to implement it in the 6th grade language arts and reading classes. And we felt that this would give a broad enough range because all students in the 6th grade would have the opportunity. So your ESE students, your advanced students, your regular track students would all have the opportunity to have this seating in both language arts and their reading class. And then we would be able to compare that data. We also didn't implement the grant until 2nd semester. So we had the data from the 1st semester in regard to discipline and those type of things. We didn't have a lot of data on students getting up out of their seat because we didn't know we were going to get the grant. But we were able to look at the data 2nd semester from 7th and 8th grade on both aspects, whether there were more referrals, whether students were up out of their seat, how often were they asking to use the restroom in that particular class.
Cool. So what do you think was the biggest takeaway from the process, and what will you do to advance? Will you continue it?
So I think one of the biggest takeaways, I always poll the teachers and I tell them all the time I want the good, the bad, and the ugly because we know it's not always going to be perfect and it might be a little bit messy, but that's how we figure out how to make it better for the next year. So the biggest takeaway I think was that the teachers were surprised themselves in a couple of aspects. The first one, they said, you know, it didn't have a huge change for every student, but the ones that really needed it, they saw a huge change. Wow. So that was really great. The other surprise that they had was they felt that going into it, they were a little bit nervous that the students might be more social, and they actually found the absolute opposite, that they were less social during class time, or if they were given group work, they still did the group work, but they didn't really get off task. And they were a little bit afraid that they would, but it turned out when they're in the flexible seating, they're in different areas of the room, and they were actually spread out a little bit more than when they were in desks right next to each other. So those were probably the 2 biggest surprises they had. Challenges, I would say, as I shared with you, were finding the right types of seats and looking at what we could afford to get put into the classrooms that would be sustainable. Middle school kids come in a very, very large range of sizes and where it would be comfortable, and different enough types of seats. We wound up getting some beanbag chairs, some video rocker type chairs. We purchased clipboards for every classroom so that they would have the clipboard if they needed it while they were sitting. We had some wing chairs, a coffee table.
You had some little wobble, I call them wobble stools.
The wobble stools. We had some wobble stools. We had a coffee table for all the students, and we had some just cushions where they could kneel at the coffee table. That was surprising, a big choice. The students liked that a lot, to sit on the floor like at a lower coffee table.
That's great. So Dr. Rendell, you've seen a lot of great things happen throughout your career. What was the biggest surprise or impression you had of this whole project and hearing Ann talk about it?
Well, if you think about it, it's really centered on the student's need. So I know people who write. A friend of mine from college is actually a songwriter. and he has a certain room that he likes to go into when he's composing songs. And you know, people that are creative, they always have certain aspects about the physical environment they want to be in when they're writing. Some, you know, a bright, airy room. Others maybe sitting on a sofa or a couch or a lounge chair or whatever. So this offers a variety of seating arrangements for the students in the class. So some students would prefer the standard desk. You know, that's what they're used to. That's what they're comfortable with. But others, you know, maybe they have different sensory needs. So a bean bag or the video game chair that can rock and that kind of thing gives them a different physical surrounding, a different aspect. So they find out what seating arrangement is most comfortable for them to be productive in, not necessarily the most comfortable for them to, you know, take a nap or anything like that.
Right.
But no, I was surprised when I visited the classrooms at Storm Grove to see how productive, how engaged, how focused the kids were on their learning. What Ann was talking about was, you know, that if I was a classroom teacher, one of the concerns I might have is, well, if we have these 4 beanbag chairs and these 4 rockers and the wobble stools or whatever, the kids are going to think it's playtime and they're not going to be focused.
Right.
But instead, the kids were very quiet and focused on their individual work, and they were in chairs or seating arrangements that were comfortable to them. So they were actually more productive, I think, than in the traditional setting. So there's a lot of research behind it. It isn't something we're just trying that someone came up with a crazy idea.
Right.
There's research and a lot of other studies that have been done at other schools that have embraced this a year or two ago. And so this is something we're probably going to see a lot more of in the future.
I think
and
so.
I know Storm Grove really found it to be worthwhile, so we'll probably see this a little bit more.
I think so. And as we wrap up, I just want to say thank you to you and your team. And it was really the vision of what that strategy was. It wasn't just, I would say, it wasn't that you decided to buy stuff, but you had a clear strategy, a plan, a focus for goals, you know, a lot of measurable things that are really going to move that needle. So thank you.
Thank you. And we've already had the 6th graders ask us if the seats are going with them to 7th grade.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being with us. We'll be right back with another guest.
The School District of Indian River County is active and adding followers daily on social media. Wondering what's going on in our district? Do you want to see pictures and videos of our teachers and students doing amazing things and keep up to date with news, events, and hot topics? Follow us. On Twitter, search for @IRC Schools, and for Facebook, @School District of IRC. Are you looking for a way to access our school board meetings from home? Find us on our district YouTube channel, youtube.com/School District of Indian River County. You can also view video segments of exciting community events that have taken place in our district. Tune in to Comcast Channel 28 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99 to view district news regarding course registration, event information, transportation, and school news.
Welcome back. We have another wonderful guest here to tell us about the high impact grant at their school, Sebastian River Middle School. So welcome, Latoya Bullard. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
And we're excited to have Dr. Rendell with us as well to have this wonderful chat to talk about our grants of high impact. And you had a phenomenal grant that your whole team put together. And tell our viewers a little bit about the name of your grant and about how you came up with the idea.
The name of our grant is Literacy Across the Curriculum. In 2016 and 17, we started the content area literacy meetings where once a month teachers from all grade levels, all subjects were able to meet together to discuss the literacy needs for that particular grade level. And we would come up with things like literacy, the importance for vocabulary, and all of those just strategies to help students become successful.
So another way maybe of phrasing those were professional development, professional learning communities, PLCs, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
I think what impressed our group is you really got a sense that your whole team is working together across grade levels and across even different curriculum, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, different content areas. And so the way it began was when, after the teachers meet, the data is collected and the overall what teachers needed overall were resources. And they needed vocabulary for social studies, vocabulary for science. Reading teachers wanted more resources that would be able to target the standard.
And so your team selected something called My On, right?
Yes.
So tell them, what is My On? I would keep wanting to call it My Own, My On.
My On is an amazing online reading program. We were the first school in Indian River County to be able to pilot it, which was extremely exciting. The reason we purchased the program was because it provided a number of different services for our students that they could use and that were important. Number one, students had access to the books that they downloaded, regardless of whether or not they were online. They were able to take quizzes after every test. They were able to practice their close reading strategies, which are all things that we incorporate into the lessons, into the classroom. So this was a takeaway for them to not only use inside the classroom, but outside of the classroom.
And you had some phenomenal outcomes. Like you
Yes.
started telling us before the show, I'm like, stop, wait, that's so great. So they were big numbers, big numbers of outcomes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Throughout the 11-week period, our students read 9,600 books altogether.
9,600 books. I
Yes.
think that's a big number, Dr. Rendell. What do you think?
Well, I think that when we say we read 9,600 books, most of those were online.
Yes, sir.
You know, that's the thing that what Latoya was talking about. So MyOn is kind of like a Kindle Reader app or whatever. It's a way for students to access all these different books that they might be talking about in class, or books related to the content of the class. So, for example, in 7th grade civics, you know, the teacher might be talking about a certain court case, and there may be a book about that court case, or they might be talking about presidents, and that, you know, they could assign everybody to read a certain book about a president or something like that. And all the students could access that through MyOn. It's an online learning tool, and they could read at their own pace. You know, kind of like some of us adults who've gotten hooked on Kindle readers and things like that. This was the access for all of the kids to be able to access this huge library of books associated with the different subject areas that we're teaching. So 9,600 books written in a short period of time, not the entire school year.
No.
Because you didn't get the grant until...
They got the money right before Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And then really it was January by the time they ordered the material. So it was really probably, what, February
Yes.
to April, because then you went into testing in May.
Right, so 9,600 books read by all these different students in a matter of months.
Yeah.
And the books were selected to, you know, to associate with the curriculum in the classroom and that kind of thing. So not just reading for fun, but reading actually for content related to what was being taught in the class. And, you know, this interdisciplinary work by the teachers is something that's been around for a while. Actually, when I started teaching, I started in middle school, and I was part of what's called a middle school team. So I was a social studies teacher. There was an English teacher, a math teacher, and a science teacher, and we were all on the same team. And we had the same 150 kids or so that rotated through our classes. So once a quarter, we would work together and plan an interdisciplinary unit, so to speak. So I might be teaching something in social studies that would then be referenced or related to in English class and in science class and math class, but nothing quite like this. This is so much more coordination, so much more effort. I would imagine that the kids at Sebastian River Middle knew that this was a concerted effort and that all of their teachers were talking to each other and doing this together.
Oh yeah, I mean, in going back to the presentation, it was so clear your team was really interconnected, and I would think that brings such energy, right?
Yes.
Different perspectives, different ideas. Not that you aren't amazing on your own, but that you can learn so much from other team members at your school.
Yes, we were definitely able to share that knowledge with one another, and the people who had the greatest benefit of the service were the students. They were able to get books that they were able to pick on their grade level that they had access to at any time. And not to only mention that, but the idea that we were able to level our literacy curriculum through social studies as well as through language arts by providing vocabulary support in social studies, as well as the different level materials. We used Cards and Stars and reading for our lower levels. We used Focus in our developing reading classes, and we used the LAFS assessments in our regular language arts classes. And through that, our mean, we started out at a 57%. Our end was 83%.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
We want that for every school, don't we?
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, you know, if you are a piano player and you want to get better at playing the piano, you have to play the piano. You have to practice. Same
Right.
thing. So we want our kids to get better at reading comprehension. They need to read.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm sure these kids were a lot more excited to be reading something online, something of their choosing, a book they could find, rather than we're all going to pull out a faded copy of Red Badge of Courage and read it together and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great tool.
Very exciting. So lots of great outcomes. So looking ahead, is there something that you learned that you didn't expect? You know, were there any surprises? Or going forward, what would that be?
A couple of surprises going forward. A couple of surprises that we realized is that teachers wanted more resources. Once they got the opportunity, once students mastered the level passages that we had, they were like, no, we want more. We want to build their endurance even more. Wow. So we learned that teachers, if they are provided with the resources, they will use them to enhance student achievement. We also learned that there is a great need for our program and that our principal has said that we will be able to continue with MyOn next year.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yes,
That's great.
moving forward, we will have MyOn again and we will continue working together in our CALS groups to impact student achievement.
Well, congratulations. That's just tremendous. And I'm sure you echo that as well, Dr. Rendell.
Yeah, it's a fantastic testament to the fact that, you know, some teachers got together, they had this great idea, they wanted to do something, they convinced their administration to pursue it. You provided the resource for us to try this out, and now, because it's worked so well, it's probably something that we're going to scale across all grade levels at Sebastian River Middle. We'll probably look at other schools as well.
So congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Ed
Well,
Foundation.
we hope that we'll hear a little bit more about it, and I know that that's so exciting to see where it'll take our students and our teachers as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It's very exciting. Thank
So
you.
thanks for being with us. We'll be right back with another guest.
The School District of Indian River County is active and adding followers daily on social media. Wondering what's going on in our district? Do you want to see pictures and videos of our teachers and students doing amazing things and keep up to date with news, events, and hot topics? Follow us. On Twitter, search for @IRC Schools, and for Facebook, @School District of IRC. Are you looking for a way to access our school board meetings from home? Find us on our district YouTube channel, youtube.com/School District of Indian River County. You can also view video segments of exciting community events that have taken place in our district. Tune in to Comcast Channel 28 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99 to view district news regarding course registration, event information, transportation, and school news.
Welcome back. We have another wonderful high-impact grant that's taking place at Beachland Elementary School. So welcome, Dr. Lord. We're so excited that you're here with us, and welcome back, Dr. Rendell, as well. So you have done some exciting work with coding and literacy, and I'm not sure that people would always think of coding and literacy, so thank you for this innovative concept. Tell our viewers how you came up with your idea.
Okay, well, first of all, when the grant came out, we were very excited to look and see what areas we want to put the money towards. And what we looked at was how coding could really go towards our literacy for the students. And so we came up with coding application for reading support. And really, coding is the 21st century language that we have. And so we wanted our students to really have the opportunity to have challenges before them. So as a group, it was actually the hour of code came up at the very same time. So it's perfect timing. Watching the students in our school involved with the hour of coding, they have 1 hour, they're in front of a computer, and they get to see on a monitor what's happening. We thought, what would happen if we put these items actually out there for them to use? And so we researched some different pieces and looked at what we would put in place. And so we came up with 2 different types of robotics. But again, how do we tie that into literacy? And there's a way that you can actually walk through a story and have students code the robotics itself. And so that's what we tied the grant towards.
And I think what's impressive is you're talking about your youngest learners, right?
Yes.
Kindergarten,
Yes.
And then you had second graders, is that right?
And it was actually a K through 5 grant, so we had 478 students involved with this. We did it through our media center initially, but it's going into the classrooms as well. One of the things we found is that our teachers need a little bit of time to get used to the materials themselves, so we need to play. And so that's an exciting thing for us to learn a new process, because coding with the robotics is a step up from what we do on our daily basis.
Absolutely.
But they're really tying it to the literacy. So that's the part where the teachers came in. We had a second grade teacher who helped present the idea, and she looked at how is this object going to help her teach reading? How is it going to help with phonics, vocabulary? The other areas that it's focusing on is problem solving. We want our kids to learn grit. We want them to go beyond just, when they come up to a problem, they want to be able to move past it, and that's problem
Absolutely.
solving and grit, and that's important for life skills.
Well, I think it's so fascinating because on our previous show, Dr. Rendell was talking about the summer coding program for rising seniors,
Yes.
and how exciting, hopefully that's going to continue to grow. So here we've got our youngest learners, K through 5th, that are hopefully going to be advancing into our coding in our high schools.
Right, well, it's those concepts. You know, they're learning those concepts at a really young age. They're going to be able to apply not just to coding, but to all of their learning, all of their subject matter, all the learning processes they go through. What was really exciting to me about this whole process was the fact that teachers were actually kind of reinventing their teaching, looking at a different way to teach some of the skills and concepts that you need for literacy, but using this coding as a medium. And, you know, for some of our kids, traditional teaching works just fine.
Right.
You know, the way we've been teaching for years and years and years works for them, but not for all of our kids. You know, there's different ways that they learn, so we need to teach in different ways. And so this application of coding to help not just with coding skills, but, you know, the processes, the mental processes involved, and how they can be applied to literacy and other subjects, that was refreshing, and it was really exciting to see.
Well, and I think, I can't remember what the number is. I was in a presentation that said teachers after 7 or 8 years, like you're stuck or you're plateaued. And, you know, hopefully that's not true. But I'm hopeful that these types of opportunities, like you said, kind of reinvigorate or re-inspire teachers to think
Absolutely.
about their craft in a different manner.
Right. It's how can we engage all students and at all levels. So this grant was not written just for gifted students, which we have a number of, but it's for all students to be involved with it. And we also would like to pull in some of those high school students to come down to our school and help. We have some mentor students that come from the high school and to work with the coding as well, because we know that they are the future for this process.
So I know it was great when you presented at a principal's meeting just for our viewers to kind of explain, okay, coding and kindergarten and literacy.
Right.
Can you sort of walk them through, like, what does that look like? What does that
Sure.
activity entail?
Well, these little mini robots, actually, there's one of them called an Ozobot that works off of markers. So the magic markers, you're drawing lines, and different lines, different colors, mean different things. So the students have to think ahead, how, if they're trying to get this to a certain end spot, how do they get there? Or if they want the robot to do different things, different turns, and it might spin, it might go faster, it might go slower. So depending on what they want, they actually code using the markers. They then can move that into the computer and use it on either an iPad or computer application. So it was wonderful to watch the students take it and really move forward with it.
And then I love how you said this extends to the 5th graders. How is their work maybe a little bit different than those early learners, let's say K to 2?
And really it's building upon it, because what we were seeing is the more complex problems. And again, that grit. So they would try something and go, I didn't quite get it right. What do I need to do to adjust it? And so having them work through the problems, and it was also the collaborative nature of it. So they weren't working on it alone. They would work in groups, which really helped them. They had to explain their thinking, or if one wanted to do it one way, let's try it, and then let's work it out and see what works best. So
That's
that was a
awesome.
huge piece as well.
And I remember, Dr. Rendell, I had read a study, something called the 4th grade grit test. And I'm sure in your experience, you probably have observed at what point children develop that grit that indicates their success. I don't know if you have an opinion.
Right, so
or
it's right about that
perspective.
3rd or 4th grade time. It depends on the advanced, you know, the maturation of the kid, that kind of thing. So when you see this in action, what you see are these kids applying the concepts they've learned, but then having to problem solve. You know, that's what our employers and other people are saying. What they really need now are graduates who can be critical thinkers, who can problem solve, who can work as part of a team, who can communicate and all those things. And so, you know, these exercises, these applications of coding and then trying to problem solve when they don't quite, you know, the machine doesn't quite do exactly what they had intended it to do, and they have to go back and say, okay, what did I do? How can I do it differently and all that?
Right.
Those are those critical thinking, problem solving concepts that we want them to take throughout their lives, not just in education, not just in our classrooms, but everywhere. And it's kind of funny because that's what we've, the last 10 to 15 to 20 years or so, the criticisms have been that we're getting everybody ready with book knowledge and all that kind of thing. We're not training critical thinkers. We're not training kids to be creative and problem solving and all that. So now, through coding and some other applications, it's kind of shifting back to that way. We want kids to be creative. We want them to be able to construct, try things, hypotheses, science fair, all that kind of stuff. And if these things don't work, well, then what do I need to do differently in the future?
Well, and I think another exciting component is I think it's almost the children lead the learning. I'm not saying that the teacher's not in control, but I would imagine that inspires the teacher a little bit in their planning and in their thinking. You're nodding as well, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and that's really what we're seeing, and you're right on. So we had a student that the core curriculum was a difficult thing for him, and he went and researched how to move one of our spheros because the teachers were having a difficult time with it, moving it. And he was able to figure out and do all the problem solving. He came back and he showed everybody else how to do it, and he became the leader in that. And just to watch his self-confidence and having the other students come to him for problem solving, that really made a difference, and it's great for us as learners as well. So.
Well, and I know in another project we had a teacher who said initially he felt like he would lose control if he wasn't doing all the teaching, and then he shared I think it was a cartoon, and he said, I realized I was doing all the work, and now the children, I think it's a really powerful shift in our classrooms when that occurs.
Absolutely. The level engagement goes up, and you see the students really involved in it, and they're taking ownership.
And really fewer behaviors or fewer classroom
definitely.
management issues.
Right.
Well, we talk about giving the students ownership over the learning, you know,
Yes.
so the teacher's not teaching and the kids aren't just receiving.
Correct.
So this is actually putting the learning in their own hands. So they're actually in charge of, you know, how they're going to apply what they've learned and whether it's going to be successful or not. So it's more than just giving them ownership over the learning. The learning is in their hands.
Yes, it's exciting. So that's wonderful. What are some of the outcomes that you've seen? Or I know a lot of this will probably be measured through some tests. We don't have the results, but are there some initial things that you've observed?
Right, and really from the observations, I think the biggest aha was the social emotional that we are seeing, that the students are feeling more confident in the problem solving in that piece of it. So we're able to observe that. As you said, we don't have test results back yet, and we're really at the initial stages of tying it to literacy, but just asking the students, so we did a survey to find out how more confident they felt in the coding and all that, and it was overwhelmingly 100% feeling like they had really mastered and started on the road, and they are excited about the next steps as well.
Well, and I would think that plants seeds when we talk about careers and studies of interest post-secondary, even through our regional science and engineering fair. It's fascinating to me when I'll ask someone who's now a research scientist or even a successful business person who participated, or even someone who's a dentist, you know, where did you get that first idea? And inevitably, they always go back to third, fourth, or fifth grade science experiments, that's where they got the spark, that's where they got the idea. So I would imagine you're inspiring some students in that way as well.
Yes, I would say so. And even just for their daily living. We have robots now that are doing their lawns.
Yes.
So, you know, this is what they're going to be going into in the future. And it really is a part of what their world would look like.
I could use that robot for my lawn.
So we are preparing the learners of tomorrow.
That's awesome. So what are some plans for the future? Where do you hope to go next year?
Well, really expanding it more into the classrooms. As I said, primarily it's been through the Media Center, and we had a couple of teachers who really took a hold of it, but putting it more in the classrooms and utilizing it there with the literacy and having the students, again, the next steps. So very excited about continuing with the project. So something that we're continuing.
Well, great. And Dr. Rendell, as we wrap up, any perspectives you have on this type of project and where more things like maybe this in the district?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank the Education Foundation for the support. I mean, again, you know, we talked at the beginning of the show about, you know, teachers and principals come up with these great ideas, and if funding's not available, then it's just a great idea. But if funding's available and they're able to apply it and they can see whether it's something that's going to enhance learning, then it might be something that we do at a bigger scale. So, that's probably the first thing is, thanks for the resources to be able to try these new things. All three of the things we talked about today were different ways to kind of energize learning and put it in the hands of the students. And anytime that we are reinventing the learning in the classroom or reinventing the teaching in the classroom, we're going to engage the students. We're going to have them take ownership, like we talked about, over their learning, and it's going to lead to better outcomes. And I think you mentioned earlier, whether the instruction is stale and that kind of thing. And I think all of our best teachers have always tried to reinvent what they're doing in the classroom. And so today we just talked about some different tools available.
Absolutely. And certainly we want to encourage those teachers, principals, and leaders who are watching. The information is on our website, and public schools are welcome to apply, so they can be working on the proposals right now. And we'll put out the formal request probably in late July, but folks can start to look at it. And of course, we want to thank our legislators, because this is made possible through a dollar for dollar matching grant program. Collectively, $63 million is raised throughout the state of Florida through education foundations to do this type of work. So thank you to the Florida legislature for supporting public education, and thank you to the many private funders here in Indian River County that help us leverage this funding pool. So it's exciting, so thank you for helping us do our job. It's our pleasure to serve Indian River County, and it's exciting to hear about. I'm all energized by hearing these. So.
And thank you for the support very much.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So thanks for being with us, and we hope to have you both back on in the fall, and we'll be hearing more, hopefully.
Wonderful.
Right.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again.
Thanks for being with us. We hope you'll tune in again soon.